that's true. Naked Palpatine.
Oh, you pick that one. Fresh out of the clone tank, nude Palpatine is my
Well, that's the first thing I think of when you say Dark Empire Palpatine.
Hello, back with another day, another video, and a wrinkly shirt as I head to work with this on because it's St. Patty's Day when I'm recording this, and I don't feel like wearing my work shirt if I don't have to, and it's green, so it works, and that's all there is to it. Today, I'm discussing another YouTuber work. This one is All the Broken Things by Dorothy D. Cock. Cock, yeah? K-O-K. I'm gonna assume so. If not, whatever. She can correct it down below. But she's a YouTuber. She, talks about books and stuff. She's also a retired English teacher. And I had heard that she, has written books. And in fact, at the time of recording this, I don't know when this is uploaded, but she decided to start working on a cozy fantasy book. So maybe that's something I may be reading sometime because, spoiler alert, I really enjoyed this book. All things considered, for a book that is about the apocalypse and about the end of it all, what a love letter to literature. Maybe some allusions there to biblical stuff and God himself, and just a very hopeful book for a post-apocalypse story. Also, no real violence in this story or anything either, really. Again, surprising for post-apocalypse. It alludes to it. It's, it happens off screen per se, but it's not something that's sort of the focus of this tale. We do have a death in this book that I won't talk about until spoilers, and that's sad and everything, but it's not really because of any violence in particular. Accidental, natural gravity. But for such a short book, I was really surprised as how quickly I fell in love with all the characters. We have Mara, which I immediately kind of was like, oh, just because I'm a big fan of the Star Wars Expanded Universe, and of course we all know if Vader was Palpatine's hammer, then Mara Jade was Palpatine's scalpel, and later on she would go on to marry Anakin Skywalker's son, Luke Skywalker, as Mara Jade Skywalker. So the name Mara always sticks with me whenever I see it in fiction. Speaking of the Star Wars Expanded Universe, we also have another character that appears later on in the story called Cade. Now, in the Legacy comics, which are about either Luke's great or great-great-grandson, Cade Skywalker, the spelling in these two stories is exactly the same except for the beginning, which Cade in Star Wars is with a C, K in this story is with a K. So, really the only difference. We also have Allie, or Alloy, it's A-L-Y. I think it's Allie. I thought of Alloy because when I grew up in high school, there was a post-apocalypse game with robot dinosaurs and monsters called Horizon Zero Dawn. There's also Horizon Forbidden West that I've never touched. And in that you play as a woman named Alloy. And so that kind of stuck in my mind too while reading this. But like I said, people are just kind of hanging around. They're kind of talking and trying to survive, getting medicine, getting tea, and food. And is that all that matters? Is surviving all that matters? Or should we also live, even amongst dark times like those? Should, because Allie likes to go and find, junk that's just kind of aesthetically pleasing. And Mara's whole thing is kind of just like survival. And where's that line drawn between kind of just being the walking dead and truly living, even in a post-apocalypse? So I think that's kind of the overall vibe of the story without spoilers. I know last week I recently reviewed another YouTuber. I would say I don't think Dorothy's prose are necessarily as exquisite, but that's okay. The prose are different. They're not. I think they're more plain. That's not. There's nothing wrong with that. But emotionally speaking, I think when she hits those beats when you're supposed to feel things, for somebody that I've never read before until just this very moment, it really hammered in. I mean, this is a story with really no violence or anything like high super stakes or anything. I felt deeply connected to all these people in only 200 pages in a short amount of time. So I think that's something to sing high praise about. So would I recommend All the Broken Things? Yeah, if you're on a different pace, you read The Road and by Cormac McCarthy, and that's a very bleak tale. I would argue people think it's like completely bleak and dark, and I think it's actually the most hopeful of Cormac McCarthy's work. But then we have to get in a whole discussion about the entirety of Cormac McCarthy's literary works and whether or not they are all kind of in a same universe sort of thing. Now, when people say that, they kind of cringe because they think like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I mean more thematically. Are they all kind of stretching out? Because if you take this is a whole separate thing. You take The Road to be like the end of the timeline because it's like the end of the world versus like Blood Meridian. Is there some sort of thing at the end? Anyway, Blood Meridian is very bleak, even though it's earlier in time. The Road's at the end of all things, and it's the most hopeful. And I feel, to wrap it around, there was a point in that ramble that All the Broken Things follows a similar bout, but it's even more so because a lot of the dark things that are expressed in The Road are not really apparent in this story. It is made abundantly clear that things are not good, things are not well, things could be a hell of a lot better. But it also doesn't seem nearly as dark as perhaps The Road is. So I would recommend it. I think if you like post-apocalypse stories and you want a sort of a different vibe, I'd say this is closer to maybe like a cozy apocalypse as opposed to like what you naturally think of when you think of like a post-apocalypse tale. Like I said, it is bleak. I mean, people are struggling to survive. They're scrounging for food. Everything's dilapidated. Everything's ruined. But it's also not the message, the theme of the story is not bleak, is not hopeless. So the world inherently feels a little bit lighter, if that makes sense. Not to say that serious stuff isn't discussed, but I was shockingly surprised. I didn't know what to go into it. I wanted, because this author, I've been watching her videos. I've liked her videos. I've commented on her videos. She's commented back. She's commented on my videos. So I will not lie to you in the slightest that this review here is inherently biased. I like this person. I do not know them on a personal level, but I like this person. So I was going into this being like, well, if I don't like it, I'm just not going to review it. I'll tell her I read it. I'll tell her I enjoyed it, but I'm not going to review it. Or I wouldn't lie. I'd be like, yeah, I thought it was fine, but I wouldn't review it then, But I did really enjoy it. So I thought I should spread the love so that way hopefully you guys could check it out and let her know what you guys think. Again, it's not like the greatest thing in the world, but I was pleasantly surprised. We get a lot of quotes because this is set in the real world, just in the post-apocalyptic future. So we have certain, connections. We have, Hemingway mentions, which was cool to see. We have The Old Man and the Sea is a big part of this story, and I love to see that because it's like I've actually read that. I've read that for the channel, so it was nice to be in the know when it comes to certain sections of this book, and it made me appreciate the book better, right? There are other ones I haven't gotten to yet, but I recognize the name, like Toni Morrison and whatnot. So definitely a lot of parallels there. There's biblical parallels as well. I did mention Jonah earlier. And all that stuff is really great. And I really enjoyed it. And it's short, it's sweet, doesn't take too long to finish. I think everybody can have a good time with it. So that's my non-spoilers. If you don't want any spoilers, there's the door. So, like I said, we meet Mara. We're in a post-apocalyptic London. Allie is 15 years old. She meets a small boy that they would later go on to name Jonah, because an older lady back in the day told her a biblical story about Jonah and the whale. So the young boy gets named Jonah. And then we get to my notes. I don't have too many, but here's an example of the writing. So they came when the sky split open. He rasped as he sank down beside him, her back pressed icy plaster. The Blackwing lords, dragging kind, rulers of the Ashlands. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? He gestured weakly toward the broken window, the ruined city beyond. Mara shut her eyes. Fragile water. Fevered coughs. Allie's silent shadow boy needing food. A headache pulsed behind her temples. Too familiar. Wrote them before the cracks showed, Samuel murmured. 12 books, box set, signing for kids dressed like fire mages. Then the internet died. My audience vanished like smoke. Sorry. My audience vanished like smoke. Sorry. Audience vanished like smoke. I lost my... I literally... It turned off on me. Yeah. He pulled a cracked inhaler from his coat. Shook it. A hollow rattle. Writers don't give up. We just run out of ink. Or breath. He leaned forward, the blanket slipping. People got it wrong. The lords didn't come to destroy, they came to remember. To burn away the lies. But human, they trust rot. It's slow. Familiar. His clouded eyes drifted toward the door as if hearing faint voices below. They chose ruin over fire, fear over wings. And you thought dragons would save us? Mara's voice was flat. No, hoped. He coughed, a wet, tearing sound. In the old stories, there were 7 wings, but the first wing couldn't rise until the earth was marked with innocent blood, not a warrior's, someone gentle. A tremor passed through his thin hands, someone who never struck back. A sacrifice. Sorrow. Unearned. Unanswered. His gaze lingered on the door. Stirs the earth, starts to wings. Closed his eyes. The first wing begins with sorrow. That's the problem with writers. You make death sound like poetry when it's nothing like that. He opened his eyes, a ghost of a smile. And your pragmatism. What does it build, Mara? Filters that break? Barrels that tasted despair? Survival isn't living. It's just waiting for the next break. It's keeping people alive, she said. Love doesn't fill stomachs and provide water. Love gets people killed. Everything does eventually. Love speeds it up. The faces of her married friends, lost in the early chaos, flashed behind her eyes. They saw the cracks coming. They saw white lace and forever. Forever lasted 18 months. And you were right, Samuel whispered. Does being right feel like living? She had no answer. The cold from the wall seeped deeper. Would you open that window? He asked suddenly, voice thin to a thread. I want to see the clean sky. Just once more. So this previous author went on to die shortly after that quote. Fun times all around, right? Sorry about losing my track of everything. Meet a bunch of other people that wrote down their names, but they don't matter too much to the story other than Riva, so I'm gonna keep moving forward. This is around the time, the next time I wrote a note, Cade shows up. He's scavenging around and stuff, and he starts getting involved with the group. And then a few more phone notes. Or really just one more? No. He shook his head slowly, his gaze riveted to the wall, something real. His voice had dropped, settling warm and heavy in the space between them. Like it defies every law saying it shouldn't exist, he murmured. But here it bloody well is. Flush rose on Allie's cheeks. She looked down, scuffing her boots, toe against the loose pebble, then leaned forward to press a lightly loosened shard back into place. I thought maybe people forgot how to look, she said quietly, almost to the wall itself. Cade's gaze remains fixed on the mosaic. They didn't forget. They just needed someone to show them. When you build something like this, people notice. Even the wrong kind of people? Even the wrong kind of people. Allie didn't answer, just smoothed the stubborn foil fragment with her thumb. For a long, breathless moment, the square held its silence. Shadows stretched long and thin. The flower caught the changing angle of the light, and in that stillness, nothing more needed to be said. So that's it for my direct quotes from the book. I think I have one more. I think it got deleted because one thing that I really loved, Cade later on does get involved with Mara. And I thought their relationship, for a book, again, that is only 280 pages, the growth of that into blossoming into something I truly accepted and believed in was incredible. I've read books all the time that are way longer than this book, and I don't believe really in any of their relationships. And in 200 pages, I was in love with both Cade and Mara's relationship. I thought it was very strong. I'm pretty sure I wrote down a specific passage where they're talking to one another and they first like kind of show that romantic feelings officially, but I guess it got deleted. But I love that section. I'm letting Dorothy know I loved everything about Cade, and Cade was probably my favorite of the whole group. Cade, Mara, great development. Love their interactions, love their individual arcs, and Allie's cool. The saddest thing that happens in this book, the big kind of climax, and again, it's no like real violence or anything. Jonah and Allie are hanging out, and she asks Jonah to climb a tree, or this thing, and gravity. And so they have to bury and mourn a child. Very sad. But yeah, through that is still hope. And also, Cade has this place, and he basically asks Mara to stay there. It's very sweet. He says, because Mara's never been married or anything, but Cade, he had a wife and kid before. And he's pretty sure they're dead, but he's not absolutely certain, and that's always bothered him a little bit. And yeah, just a lot of good moments like that with them. And there is a newborn baby that is born from Riva, and Allie gets to name the baby. And Allie can't read, so Mara was reading to her, trying to read to her. After everything went down in this book and her softening up, she started to read to her. And so she's reading her the story, again, that I reviewed like last year, or I don't know if it came out this year, but I know I reviewed it last year, The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. And so she decides to name the baby Hemingway. So I thought that was really cool. And ultimately, that is the tale. There's a lot more that could be said. It's not a very in-depth review of it. If we were casting for a movie, because that was one of the prompts for book club. It's on the back. It gave like 3 questions. A big thing also in this story is like, you know, like fragments and stuff. So like pieces of like glass and stuff that are pretty colors and stuff. And like if I had a fragment, and honestly, it would probably be a fragment for me. I had some friends who gave me this little rock with different colors on it, Um, to signify, like, even if we're not around all the time, or if you feel left out, just look at the rock and remember. So that always sits in my car, and I'll randomly look at it when I get really depressed and sad. And it'll help a little bit. So I'd probably keep that around. The other question was, who would I cast? And while I am not old enough for the character, but I would say, because, well, I'm aspiring to act. If I would be Cade if I could be. I'd be Cade. But if it couldn't be me, I'm trying to think of like people that actually fit. Because I think I'd be in their 30s or 40s. I mean, he had a wife and kid already. I mean, I guess I'm getting to the age where somebody could already have a wife and kids, so it doesn't say much. Some kid thought I was 36 years old. I don't know. I don't know. Like the instinctual answer, just because I like him a lot, is Timothy Chalamet. And I guess he's old enough. He's 30, but just because I really like Timothy Chalamet, and I know he's getting all the butthurt comments, at least back when I'm recording this, because of the comments he made. But I still think he's a really good actor. He is Palmo de Betraydes, and I know he's a good actor because when I heard he was going to be Paul, I did not approve of it because I've read the books. I'm like, this kid can't do that. I've seen what he's been in. He's good, but he's not Paul Atreides. And even by part 1, I still didn't believe it. And then part 2 came out, and I went, I'm sorry I doubted you. So, yeah, as for Mara, that's a really good question, actually. I think it takes a particular person. I could see many people playing it. I'm not sure. Maybe just because we're on this train, Little Woman as well, because of Timothy Chalamet. I don't know, just off the top of my head, maybe Florence Pugh. I like Florence Pugh. Yeah, I didn't visualize too much for these characters, so I don't know. Actually, Mara, I just saw Mara Jade Skywalker, so that's on me. So, and nobody looks like Mara Jade Skywalker, so anyway, I'm just rambling now, trying to get this done. But I really enjoyed it though, and I know this is not an in-depth review as I've done with some other videos, and I apologize for that. But I did enjoy my time with it, and that's the train, so I'm gonna head out. But check out the book, please, and let me know what you thought about it in the comment section below. Till next time.